Hey, y'all.
Hey,
Good evening. Good evening. How are y'all doing?
everybody.
hey. Good. I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Not too bad for a Sunday evening this time.
Yes,
Right.
hanging in there.
Yes. Y'all, so how
How
y'all feeling about the first one? How did y'all feel about the first?
I enjoyed it. It was nice. I just
you
enjoyed
it felt,
the organic conversation.
Mm-hmm.
it felt good to get some stuff on my chest.
And that we did. And that we did for sure.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes. So,
Mm.
guest, if you are here, y'all better let us know y'all here. Now, y'all know we didn't learn how to come on in the house and say, hey. Don't step in the house and don't say, hey, now.
Yes. Tell us where you're from and where you're at. Put it in the chat.
Yes, y'all. Check in, check in. I said, we're looking for y'all. We're listening and waiting.
Hey.
And for sure, we have a couple things to talk about because we know sometimes people peek and lurk. And we're talking about some. We're talking about some of y'all, but we have something specific. You're gonna have to come out of hiding. You're gonna have to come out. You sure are. All
Come
right.
closer.
So I guess if we would take, I know we said the organic conversation flow, but what was one thing? If there was one thing that you could focus on, right? Just one takeaway, one major point to pull out from the last show, what would it be?
Hmm.
As we talked about, we hit on like multiple things.
I know.
Um,
I would say for me, it was mm, wearing too many hats and just owning that as educators. Like we did talk about that and go down that rabbit hole for a little moment there of just like how we are expected to do so much and wear
Mhm.
multiple hats on top of hats. I mean tiaras and the derby cap. We got all kind of hats up in here.
All right. So,
um, I would say I think acknowledging why teachers actually leave. Like people think they know, but you don't know.
so a little while before we got on, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna try to make sure that we move on because y'all know we'll go. But I saw a news story. I think it was an Eddie B clip, and he made a part of it. Was from a news story where look, let me give our official disclaimer. Not that we're condoning this and any of the views and the express law, right? In the quick, in the voice, but um, some teachers collaborated and collectively did a sick out. They all called in sick one day because basically what happened was because a new principal was hired and evidently none of the staff was included in the conversation for who their new administrator was going to be. So that was the straw. You know what the saying is, but that was the straw. So just just something to reflect on, to think about, I suppose. But also, switching gears a little bit, um, we are actually going to be embarking on a giveaway, you all. So, for all of our
Yay!
viewers, right? Jazz hands, your Birdman hand rub, all those things. We're getting ready, getting excited, right? Um, so there is some criteria to meet, but we're gonna basically, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link. Let me see if I can drop the link real quick. Haha. It'll be dropped and or posted and pinned at the end of the session if I can find it quickly. But there is a quick form for you to fill out where we just need to know who you are so we know how to get it to you, right?
Mhm.
What is the it, y'all? I didn't even say what the it was. Not that
You
that's a
gotta tell
secret.
her the it. You gotta tell them the it.
What is it? Y'all tell them. What is
It
it?
is an Amazon gift card.
An Amazon gift card.
Oh.
At a couple different points during our live series, during our sessions, we're gonna do a couple different drawings, but we're rolling it out for the first one today. Okay, so where you can start. So again, you let us know who you are, your first name, last name, phone number, email address. Then there's a couple other things to do. One of those things, a couple of those things you can start doing now though, actually. If you react to the post, right? Y'all know we like to tell you to use different emojis, react, like, um, a lot of people like to restart a post with this exact live edit. You're welcome to do that as well. So a few different things, but all of it again is outlined in the link that we'll be dropping in just a moment.
I think
Yep.
I got it.
We always doing the same thing, grabbing that link.
I was like, here you go. Got it.
Hey, you guys. Hey, Fred. I see you. Go on, get in this giveaway.
Okay. Alrighty. So let's see. All right. So I see some people are popping on. We talked about the giveaway. So we got some things on our off our chest last time, but we promised that we would not leave you there, right?
Mm-mm. Right,
So
right.
because that's not right. If we'd been like, all right, we got all worked up, we said all those things, and we like, that's not right. So we're not
Be
going to leave it in.
like, ah.
I'll holler. No. So we're focusing on culture today.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
full stop, because that's a huge topic. Y'all probably like, really? Y'all said a lot about culture last time. We said a lot. Is some things we got off of our chest last time, but this time, being clear, it is definitely some strategies. Like we said, we didn't want to just do,
Stop
do
there.
do it like that. Yes. So
But I think ultimately realizing like the culture isn't just about the school, it's about like the culture of your home, the culture of your, like if you have a community
Classroom.
based activity, organization, like the culture of all the things, the culture of your marriage. But that's another topic for another day. Marriage. But that's another topic for another day.
Sorry.
I hear me. Yay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All good, all good. Yep, so
all
we're digging
right.
in with culture at home on campus and strategies to build a positive culture if you don't have one.
Right. And then when we say on campus, we can say at home / at work because clearly, not everybody works on a campus. And even in education, some people work maybe at central office or something a little bit different. Maybe the setup's a little different. So, yes, if we say campus, we just mean whatever your job is, right? We use those interchangeably just because of the nature of what we've been doing for a while.
Yes, yes. Let's get into it.
For sure. So in the chat, so how would you describe your culture, whether it's your culture at work, your culture at home?
Hmm. Let's see. Come on, chat people. Let me see what y'all
Yeah,
thinking about.
quick.
And I
Let
would
us know.
say, like, just to keep the conversation going, I would say at home, it's just my husband and I right now. We don't have any children, just us and our fur baby. I will say, for the most part, our culture at home is pretty peaceful for the most part.
Mhm.
We don't like conflict. We don't like conflict. But as far as like school, to me, classroom and school is totally different. My classroom's culture is totally different from the school culture. My classroom culture is very transparent, and you can come to me and talk about anything, and authentic and all those other words, right? However, the school culture is some of that, but it's very different outside of those walls. It's very different. It's a little more I hate the word rigid, but if I just had to pick a word, it's a little more structured outside of those walls. Not that that's a bad thing or a good thing, but it's just different.
It's just a
So
thing, huh?
it's just a thing.
It's
It's just
just
a
a
thing,
thing.
and it works for the institution that I'm at. It works. So yep,
I
that's my
have to
take.
say, for my school, it's transparent. And I have to say it's very nurturing. I'll say the kids get loved on. It can be tough love, and it can be that, oh, you okay? It could be that type of love too. In my office, I'll say the culture of my office, um, I feel like me being the SPED leader in the space, knowing that we service an array of students. So when students come in, if they have to share something, I say, listen, share whatever you got to share. I don't get like, because they could be very upset. They might drop a profanity word or something like that. I'm not like, oh my God, why did you say that? It's not because I know you need to get something off your chest. You just need to have that permission to speak freely. And then
Mhm.
even sometimes you have staff coming in. You got venting sessions,
Yeah, get out.
going on. So my office, I really try to keep my office peaceful and clear of bad energy, I'll say. I try to
Mhm.
keep good vibes in my office. Because I know a lot of times some people will come in my office. If I just sit in here, I just need quiet.
Yeah.
Sure, you can be.
Mhm.
And then we want to start talking. So
Everybody has that hiding spot, right? Or their friend
right,
who
right,
you
right,
go
right.
to either vent or just be still.
And sometimes you just need to be you just need to be still and just hear nothing. I don't want to hear kids talking. I don't want to hear noise. I don't want to hear, you don't want to hear nothing. And
Mhm.
that is, you know, that is that. So some people might ask, you mind if I eat lunch in here? I say, sure, have a seat. They know I'm a germaphobe. There are the wipes. When you are done, wipe off your area. Wipe off your area. Now, when I was in the classroom, I was very cognizant to have an inclusive culture in my classroom. And I was very cognizant not to have, I would say, sensory overload in my classroom because I was just aware of things. Like I never had a bunch of signs up. I never had all this stuff up because I was very
That, you
aware.
know what? And that's a great thing that you had freedom to do that though, because I know sometimes I've been in spaces where it's almost it is a mandate that something is print rich. And so they're expecting
True.
so much to be up on the wall at the beginning versus, you know, being flexible in the approach for what you do or don't have, being mindful of it could be overstimulation, right? For some students, some people. That's what I'm saying, not just students, and depending on the teacher. Like, listen, y'all, that's too much. That's too much for me, you know?
Very true.
Yeah.
Because I've
Or
been
we
in
can build it together over the course of the school year.
right.
Especially, you know, math teacher, I was like, we'll do it. We're gonna work on it together for
Yeah,
sure.
I put
Right.
stuff up as I needed to. I mean, I taught English, so it's like it was certain things that stayed up. But other than that, I'm like, that's it. We're not putting nothing else up. And I've been in classrooms where I'm like, I walked in. I don't have ADHD. I don't. But
I
Lord have
do.
mercy, I walked in. I was like, yo, I literally went like this in the class. I'm like, you got too much going on here. I can't imagine a kid trying to focus on you teaching. Like it was too much for me, just being an
Mhm.
adult walking in.
Yeah, I mean, but that's something to keep in mind. I guess I'm thankful I haven't heard it as much, but I remember earlier in my teaching career, you know, it needs to be rich in here. It needs to be print rich. It's
And
like,
I think that
well,
this is the
we can do it
pandemic,
together. It can be a collaborative process, you know, as
right?
we're working on
It
certain
should
things.
be.
And that
Yeah,
could be like network or district wide where they come in like, oh, you have to have this. Like, because I know some places, oh, your
certain.
bulletin board. Oh, you got to redo your bulletin board. I'm like, you know how much time that take?
Listen,
Can I get it done?
when I tell you bulletin boards are the bane of my existence. Oh my gosh, I hate the bulletin boards. Yeah,
I
especially the
love
border.
bulletin
The
board.
border never fits. You always have to cut
True.
and have that little bit of overlap. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I have to get this off my chest real quick.
Say
Yeah,
what
so
you
I had started doing duct tape. You know how the duct tape started coming in different prints
That's smart
and
though.
cut. Mm-mm. Just shoot and cut it, and that's it. Because the what is it? The scalloped topped. Uh
I love
oh
those. They're so
no,
cute.
no. And maybe it's the middle school educator in me. I don't know, but
And that's smart. I like that. Use the tape.
mm, I was not feeling it. I was like, "What? Do we have to? Is there a better way?" There had to be, and I
Yeah.
figured it out, and I was thankful. Right, all right, Tam. You know, Tamara, listen, because I'm like, y'all, it just never fits though. That's always a thing that you have to try to line up the humps to overlap at the same.
But
That's not my ministry. That's
it's
not my
it's
ministry.
it's very interesting how you can have your overall school culture, but then each classroom individually has its own culture.
Mhm.
Or
Because
even in
you
like
have a Miss Jones on your campus putting tape on the bulletin boards. Yes.
right, even in like let's say you go to HR or just the each
Mhm.
department is like its own being, its own
Mhm.
culture. They
Mhm.
have their way of doing things, and this is how they do it, and this is how they've been doing it for years. And they don't want you new person coming in with your new ideas to share and expect them to do it too.
Is so that right. So we talked about, could it be a collaborative process? And that's one of the things I know we wanted to make sure that we emphasized when we talked about, what are some tools and some strategies. First, see what's going on. So that's going back to Jamila's point because she made some observations about, you can find out it's one thing at the campus level, it's something else in the classroom or by department, even on that same campus. Because math people are different than specialist people are different than reading people on a campus for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, but so just making sure you take that time to observe and then collaborate, ask them for some input, right?
Exactly.
So let's say this, y'all, that's at home, whether you're a guardian, and that's a brave conversation as a guardian, right?
I think also you got to be mindful of the age of, if you have children, the age of your children. And even if they are like super young, like 3, there's a question you can ask at their level to really get input versus something you might ask a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old. You can still get some input, but I think also
Like, what's your favorite things to do together?
right,
What you like it? You like it when we help you do what? Like, because there's certain things that they might need more help with, and then you kind of asking them like, what do they need more support with, without asking them exactly that kind of way.
and I think you have to be ready and willing to
It's a
really
great conversation.
accept that information, especially from your kids, because there are some parents or adults that's like, hey, this is my house. I don't care what you think. Hey, I paid a bill that, and it's like, okay, you created a culture where perhaps maybe I can't come to you to share certain information or really share how I feel about something. And okay, I'm going to go to somebody else for that.
They're going to go to someone else or no one. And so one, in that situation, it's like, are you creating a culture that you will want to be in yourself? Right? So we have to, I mean, that's for everybody. That's at home, campus life. Are you creating, and we talked about it a little bit last time, the creation part is we can't just do nothing. Like, a culture is going to happen. Something's going to occur. Is it what you want to occur though? Are you planning for it? Or are we just, we out here flying by the seat? What are we doing?
Right. Have to be
What's
willing.
the plan?
Soaring.
What
Right.
is the plan?
Yeah, you have to be willing to like look at both sides. Okay, what's the good and what's the areas of need? I mean, what's the good? What's the areas that need work? Like, you got to be honest to look at that, because it's like, okay, you were doing a lot of good things, and here are some areas for improvement, or it could be a lot of areas for improvement, but you have to acknowledge them. Like, so basically forming, what is that? Like, what is it that we're looking at? The good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. Accept it, and then it's like, okay, well, that's like stage 1. That's like the first step, and then it's like you got to move into the next step of like developing whatever culture you're going to create, because like you already formed it. Now it's like, okay, you acknowledged it. Okay, now what? You gotta put in work to do some more. Go to the next stage.
So I mean, like those essentials though. So if we're acknowledging and we're seeing things, it's gonna vary by age too. Going back to what Jamila said, making sure you can tailor and adjust your questions. That's age appropriate, but certain things are going to be more important at different ages. We've talked about this. I think we've all talked about it, but I know I talked about it on a live before, talking about my 6-year-old using his voice, right? He's like, no one wants to play with me. Well, did you ask them? Did you let them know? You want to, helping him build and use his voice, right? Student voice, like everyone talks about, but I'm trying to talk about it from a parent standpoint as well. Like, yes, I'm an educator, but still there's specific work to do with, with the child at home as well.
It made me also think about what you specifically speaking about your baby. I always go back to what you put in is what comes out. Like, as y'all know, I've taught elementary for the past 7 years and have done other little people work. I love the tiny humans. However, what I've noticed, especially the past couple years, is what I give to them, they give back. If I'm telling them I care about you, I love you, and creating this culture of compassion and love and empathy and all of this, I've seen it come out to the other scholars in the classroom. Even something so simple as asking for a swing. They already know. Miss Porter does not man down swings. I don't do that. That's not my job. That is your job as a tiny human to ask. But in order for them to do that, you have to teach them. So I
give them space to practice, for sure.
Exactly. I will give them the 411 before we walk outside to the playground. Scholars, what do we do if we want the swing? We ask. We will say, and they'll spit out however they want to say it with a friendly voice. And then what do? We wait. If a person says no, we go find something else to do and then come back when they've had their turn. So I said all this to say, like, I think in this day and age, we have set up this culture, there's a word again, of these high expectations for tiny humans to already know what to do. And they don't know what to do
Mm-hmm.
because they're learning.
Especially the tiny ones, because a lot of their life, their early life, when they would have spent a lot of time getting that practice, was online, or they were at home, and so
Yep.
it wasn't that same consistent interaction to build up those skills and develop those things.
Exactly.
And I like
Exactly.
that too. Like the extra piece you give is okay. If they say no, this is what you can do. Because sometimes it's like they assume, oh, if I say, can I have da da da, they're gonna say yes to me. They're gonna give me what they want. Give me what I want. It's like no, they're not. They may not.
Yeah. And you
Exactly.
have to role play it. You have to role play it. So that, like, ask me how many times in this first grade life right now, I've been a sixth grader. So then if they say, what are you gonna say? Same thing. You have to play it out.
And I think
Because
that.
I mean,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say the reality is, like we talked about this too before. Like, how do people learn? Like, when we first started learning, we learned through play. So we're
Mhm.
going to continue to learn through play. But when we get older, we call it role playing scenarios. Yeah, we're still playing. It's
Hmm.
pretend. We're using our
Using our
imagination.
imagination.
Right.
Like,
We're still playing.
and I think like even how you approach your little humans, Tangerine. I'm like, I was the same way with the middle schoolers. Like a lot of times it's like just because they're in middle school, they're 13, they're 12, they're 13. Yo, I'm still explaining things like this is what you do, or like, well, Miss Bish, because like I'll say middle school, a lot of kids don't want to get in trouble, for things. And I have to say, listen, if somebody hits you, are you going to continue to allow them to hit you? Is that what you do? Are you anybody's punching bag? No, I said, so no, you don't just sit and allow people to abuse you. You don't. That's abuse. You don't sit. You don't accept that. And they said, well, what if it's an adult? I said, if it's an adult, there's a respectful way to respond to an adult. And it's like literally giving them language to use. This is how you can say it. This is what you can do. If this happens, do one of these. But it's like, here are some options for you. Here are some options of things you can say. Here are some options of things you can do, because there are some things that are just unacceptable that you don't accept. Sorry is not going to fix it, and don't think just because someone says sorry, you have to accept that.
Woo! That
Listen,
part.
I said, y'all know we've
Woo.
had some of those conversations
You
offline
throw
about
it
those
kids
forced
all the time.
apologies.
Right. We
Mm-mm.
throw that on kids all the time. Oh, just say you're sorry. Sorry, not fixing it. Sorry didn't fix it.
I'm gonna go ahead and say what I said to y'all in the in offline conversation. Who wants a forced apology? They don't mean it. Who wants
Right.
that?
That
Not
You
I, said the cat.
something that
Don't
you
want it. Do not.
like, no. And then like it's like kids have been conditioned to just say, oh, I'm sorry. And then sometimes it's like, what are you sorry for?
Like
What are you
it's a magic wand, and they
Yeah,
can't
like
tell
they
you
can't
what they're
say
sorry
I'm
for.
It's like, no, what are you
Mhm.
sorry for? You meant to say excuse me here, not I'm sorry. You meant
Mhm.
to say excuse me or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think like it's just as important that we do that, continue to do that all the way up. Because I feel like it
Yes,
never
ma'am.
stops. Like it's just what you
It's
said.
just new context.
You're expecting
Mhm.
little humans to do this, and it's like you're expecting middle schools because they're 12 and 13. You should know how to do this. Like, even though sometimes I'm like,
But
I
they
was literally,
don't.
let me tell you, I remember one time in class, I told the kids knew after they finished their journal, they punched holes in it, put it in their 3-prong folder, put it in the bin. He said, well, what I gotta do, Miss Bashir? And I was almost, you know how you be at that point, like if I say it one more time, I'm going to scream. I said, punch holes in it, get your paper, punch holes in it, put it in your folder, put it in. He's looking at me, I'm like, take your paper, punch holes in it, put it in your folder, close it, put it in. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
It's moments like that. You middle school, you even have adults like that sometimes.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
learning
I
and
mean, because we're all people. It's
right.
just
It never
a
stops.
numbers changing. That's it. That's
Right.
all.
Get a
It
little
never,
taller.
it never stops. And I
That
think that's where I got the patience from with middle schoolers, because I'm like, the patience I had with middle schoolers is not the same patience I had with adults. I'll be honest, because they don't know, they're still learning. I'm sorry, these kids, they're so.
And we talked about this, Melina. I'm gonna tell you every time, and
I know.
depending on experience, maybe they don't know either. They might not. I know you don't
I
feel
have
it.
a
I
hard,
know you
no,
start
I have
tilting
a
your
hard,
head. I
yeah.
know.
You got it. It takes me some time because some adults I just look and I just shake my head,
It
and then it's
depends
like,
on the experience.
and that's true, and then it's like, hey, maybe someone never told you. You need to stop doing that.
That's not okay.
That's not
You
okay.
don't just get on the elevator and just start talking to someone at 7:25 in the morning. At least tell me, hey, how about
Or
that?
getting close up. Hold it. You're in my space right now. I need you to
Oh.
take some steps back.
Go step on that spot that says 6 feet. Thank you, COVID.
That's funny.
Or like,
Thank you.
hold it. You doing a lot of talking. Miss Bashir has not arrived yet. She's not here yet. Someone needs you to stop. Come back in a few. Miss Bashir will be here, and she can respond to you accordingly. She's not here yet.
Yeah, so just even right, because I say we're just talking clearly,
Oh
but
God.
we're talking about culture, y'all. And again, there's so much to say. We vented a lot last time. We're giving y'all some strategies and just some thoughts, some things to reflect on this time. So one thing we wanted to be sure to talk about were those 4 phases, and these 4 phases people have been talking about for a long time. A lot of people know them, right? Know the 4. So forming, right? Some people call that like the honeymoon phase, like, okay, oh yes, everyone's on their best behavior. Or like I like to say that everyone is sending their representative even, right? You're not fully, you might not be letting it all out. Except for the kids. I have to say these new kids, this alpha
They let it
generation,
all
you're
hang
gonna
out.
meet them on day 1. Miss, this is me. Here I am. Right. So the kids, I'm gonna give that to the kids. They show up. Adults, older generations, millennials, Gen Z, everybody else, boomers on down. Yeah, we're playing nice at first in the sandbox. So we're honeymoon. Then storming, right? So Jamila said when you kind of start to make those observations, like, well, why is HR doing that? Why are they
Right.
working that way? And look at the math department. They didn't tell them to do that. What? Right? So you start having your different opinions, and sometimes those opinions clash. Tangeray said her house is peaceful. She said they don't like conflict, but guess what's going to happen for sure if people are involved?
Ooh, that's storming, honey.
Conflict. It's going to be some storms.
Mhm.
Now, the messed up part is a lot of people, when they hear conflict, they think, it's a fisticuff, wear duels,
Right.
catch me outside, on site, we're clapping, all that stuff. Y'all can tell I taught middle school, huh? Because I do too. On site, right, all that. But the thing about it is, it literally just means a difference in opinion. So that you maybe hear some different perspectives, because we're always talking about how people need perspective work to be able to put themselves in different situations, empathize. So once you hear those, then we can reach a new understanding, perhaps a new normal, right? While we're figuring it out. So I think what do we say? Forming, storming. So norming is the new normal,
Norming.
right?
Norming. Yep.
And then,
Norming is one of my favorite ones, just because, like, I did mention my house is peaceful for the most part. But of course, all relationships, no matter the relationship, is not perfect, right?
Yes.
But I think once you get through the forming and the blinders come off and you get to the storming and the conflict and all that, if you do not participate in the norming aspect of like, these are the expectations from you to me, no matter what the relationship is, even with the little students, my little tiny humans. We ain't doing that. Like that norming piece, some people
It's
don't
very,
get to it.
it's
You know
very
what?
Critical.
And based on what you said, because we talked about that before, that a lot of times in school life and away from home, we call it social contracts, right? But that would be that norming part. If Tangeray's talking about setting those expectations, like how do you want to be treated? How do you want me to treat you? What are we going to do when conflict arises? Because it's coming. We might as well be prepared and have a plan, right? And then also how are you going, like if it's coworkers, colleagues, kids in the same space, how are we going to treat each other in general? How are we going to interact? And we talked about this before too, digging deep. Because what do people want to say? Well, how do you want to be treated? What's the words people use?
Treat people how you want to be treated. I want to be treated kind
I want to be
with
treated with
love.
respect, and I want to be,
Mhm.
all that. And it's like,
And
okay,
what's the problem? I'm calling for
exactly.
backup. I'm like security, kind, nice. What?
And then another piece that adds on to that is when everyone, after you go through the storming, and you get to the point where you're norming things, it does help you to hold each other accountable. Because even in the classroom, students will hold each other accountable. And then even in
Woo.
your workplace, you can pull each other's coattails and hold each other accountable. Because kids are quick to say, excuse me, that's not what we said. They ain't or even even you as a teacher, Miss Bashir, that's not what you said. They'll point it out for you. And then when you are like, even in the workplace, if we can't hold each other accountable, give each other feedback, and not even on some, oh, I know what you did is wrong or whatever. No, I'm just telling you this to make you better. Like, get out your feelings and just accept feedback. People got to be in position to accept feedback without their feelings getting hurt.
Oh, I have a couple things. So one,
Come
going
on, girl.
back to the kind, respect nicely. So remember we said before that you have to make sure that you dig deep for that though. You have to ask them, what does it look like? What does it sound like? Because again, depending on my schema, right? My previous experiences and things, maybe me being nice and being respectful is just not cursing all the time to you. It might be, right?
Different
So
definitions.
what does it look like? What does it sound like? We have to be specific. Then Jamila said, making sure that people are more open, building this culture, more open to the feedback. But it goes back to really literally the name, what we named this, relationships and reflections,
Yep.
because people are not going to take your feedback seriously, slash, is going to be more personal if there's no relationship. If there's, and
Mhm.
that almost seems backwards, right? That if there's
Mhm.
a relationship in place, when someone's talking to you about it, you won't take it personally because you
Mhm.
know it's not about the relationship. It's just about just the overall goal. It's not about let me nitpick anything that, like, that's not it. So it
Mhm.
seems counterintuitive, but that's something we need to sit with that one for a minute.
It made me think about something that happened recently. I have a new teammate, internship, which I love that he's on my team, like super amazing. And we were just chatting it up. I was giving him the lay of the land of like, this is what it looks like on this team, this, that, and the other as an enrichment educator, da 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 da. And he said, "So, Miss Porter, let's just have a real conversation. What's your pet peeves?" And I said, "Thank you for asking that question." I said, "My time wasted." For him to just step out the box of just like, I need to know what makes you tick as
Hmm.
my leader. Hey, this my time being wasted. That's the biggest thing that makes me tick and lack of communication. When I tell you, homeboy be like, "Yo, Miss Porter, I'm doing this, this, and this. Do you need," like, his communication is on point because we already got that out the way. And we had a relationship prior to this transition. So it's even something so simple as that, just knowing your person's pet peeve, or your, whether it's your child or your squad at school or whatever. Ask those questions. You
That
gotta
is
ask the question.
that's
And
very true.
even understanding your own leadership style, whether you are the parent or you are the leader or whatever. I straight up told him my leadership style isn't like a lot of other people. I'm gonna hold you accountable, but I'm not gonna micromanage you. Because what it is, we're adults. I should be able to trust you to say trust
Mhm.
you to do what you say you're gonna do. And we've been good. So
And
you also gotta know you.
that's true. And then also, like, even I think that's even great for someone new coming to a culture. Because I'm gonna tell this real quick. We had someone new come, and I'll say the school culture very family oriented. So we'll fuss at each other, but we know it's all love. We're not serious. Ain't nobody trying to fight. Ain't nobody outside. Like, I wait for you outside. No, nobody doing that, right? So he didn't really know that about us. So we're fussing at each other, whatever. And this leader comes and says, hold up, da 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 da, talking. Right when I tell everybody was like, skirt, like everybody was just like, is this real or is this a joke? Like it was really like that. Like, do you not know you
Because there
talking
was
to
no
adults?
relationship, so
Right?
he
And it was
didn't know.
like,
Hmm.
right? It was like, do you not know you talking to adults? Do you not know that we do this? This is what we do, and we outside. School has ended. So it was like one of the other leaders went to him. Cher was just like, oh, just explain things, and then she was just like, you really owe them an apology. Because when I tell you, we all turned to look like, who are you talking to? Like,
He caught all the side eye. He
that's
did.
what it was. And then he did apologize. I don't like apologies in writing, but he did send a message. But then he also saw me in person the next morning and apologized. And I appreciated that. And I said, I get it. Thank you. I said, I appreciate your apology.
I'm glad you got a sincere apology, because you see, I'm still kind of like,
Yeah,
okay.
because
No, I'm just
apologies in
joking.
writing, I'm like, you need to tell me that to my face. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, so we have touched on a few different things along the way, right? If I'm kind of summarizing along the way. So we talked about, okay, how important culture is, building it, and building it, being intentional, right? When you're building it, not just letting things fall haphazardly or as they may, but building those relationships. And then that storming part, right? You're setting those expectations, conflict, right? Because this is, I can't think of any age where there's not going to be some kind of conflict, because all of us having worked with different age groups.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's
And
going to be some,
people.
there's going to be some
It hit me.
conflict.
And people. Lord have mercy.
Yes, and people, exactly that.
Not from
And
the same place
so
as me. So yes.
one thing we also wanted to talk about was even some of there was a different model, like we talked about the 4 stages of organizations, but someone talked about the change curve. There's this change curve that this is really in your storming, you're setting the expectations mode, and it talked a lot about the feelings, the emotions that actually go there. And y'all know I'm the SEL, right? Leaning in with all the sprinkles, but haha, not just sprinkles, but with some real work, obviously some real things to say and do. So a lot of times in the beginning, going back to the honeymoon, yeah, the Kubler-Ross change curve, going back to the honeymoon phase or the forming, we're people in denial. They're lying.
Mm-hmm.
They're in
To
denial,
themselves.
That's facts.
in yourself only, right? But
Mhm.
so it's a lot of, just okay, yeah, everything is great. We're here. Yes, this is who I am all the time. Yes, ma'am. No, sir.
Lies.
Just real straight up denial for sure.
Lies.
So then going back some, and I'm using kind of some of Jamila's and Tangeray's. So Jamila talked about the observations when you start seeing different departments moving and interacting differently, then that of course is getting into the edge of the storm. We're on the edge. We're not quite to the eye yet. We're on the edge. And that is when a lot of frustration can occur.
Mhm.
Because people are like, well, they didn't say to do that. Then the other group might say, well, they didn't say to not do it. Right. Depending, that's when the personalities really start coming out. And if those expectations, going back again to expectations and setting them together, right? Getting to know each other. If those expectations aren't clear and aren't set,
Mhm.
then can you imagine the frustration? Like it says frustration on the curve, but can you imagine what else comes with it?
Whew, a whole lot of craziness.
You know
And a
what?
whole lot of people going to the principal, complaining, telling
Mm-hmm.
on people, going to the
Gossiping.
areas.
And depending on personality style and just reaction in conflict type situations, how some people shut down. So it could even be
Mhm.
depression, honestly.
Or
Mm.
even
Right.
with the frustration part, even you see it out in the news how it's like, oh, you have this new superintendent, but you don't like what he's doing, so we got to get him fired. We got to get them out.
Mm. Cancel culture.
Mm.
Yes.
Yes.
Whew, it's serious.
I mean, so imagine all these things we're able to connect to, but it really all comes around culture and
Mhm.
organization, right? Because we live life, and life is mandated on different experiences and interactions, and isn't that really what builds culture?
Mhm.
So
Interactions.
yeah,
Preacher. Yes. Hallelujah.
Yeah, so silly.
Y'all in the chat, type in the chat a heart or a fire sign if this is resonating with you. If any of what we're talking about today is it resonating with you? We're just having a little organic conversation about
Mhm.
relationships and reflection.
Let's see that in the comments. Put a fire, put a
And
flame, a
reflection.
heart. How
Yes.
resonate with
Put a
you?
mirror. We're talking about reflections. Put a mirror if you'd like to. Right? And
Oh shit,
Tasia
a
Ray said
man.
earlier, they're always gonna let us know, right? All
She got
these news
flames in her.
stories, the little people are some of the most authentic because they let us know immediately if they
And
don't like
healed.
it. Immediately if they
They
don't like
do.
it, right?
You
Ask
want the truth?
ask
Stop
me
no
how I
time
know.
healed.
Ask me how
No
I know.
filter at
But
all.
mm-mm. But but that's a reflection. That is feedback. So going back to what Jamila said, that culture of feedback and getting used to it. So our kids give us feedback because clearly we have that relationship. Yes. Hmm.
Biggie, you keep it
Are we
going with
sure
you
we're
right
working on it? Right. It's dynamic. It
there.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on it. So we'll pause. Well, y'all tell me. We want to
What we
say a
think?
little more about the curve, or what do y'all
Let's
think?
keep going. Want to keep
We
going?
keep on going with the curve.
Going with
Okay.
the
We keep on
curve.
going with the curve.
So then going back to having those brave conversations, right? Where when you're trying to get your buy-in from your staff, from your person at your home, yes, that's a brave conversation. Again, yeah, they're going to tell you about everything they do or don't like, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an experimental phase, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so how people tend to approach that a little bit nervously, but it would be best to do it anyway, right? You have to do it.
Do it
Like
scared.
Jamila said, weighing the pros and cons. Like what's the best thing that'll happen? What I mean, what is necessary to happen at this stage? We don't have to
Exactly.
do all the things at all the phases, right? Thank goodness. Because my goodness, what?
What's the top? What's the top area of need that we need to improve? Focus on that first. Don't think
Right.
about it all at
Because
once.
the salts in life, what are the top three urgencies?
Yes.
What are the three urgencies?
What are your
For
three
your top three
urgencies?
challenges.
Yes, seriously. And that should be what you take as you're thinking about and talking to your campus staff or people in your workplace, your department, your young people in your classroom, your young people at home,
Mhm.
right? You're just really understanding, and maybe not saying urgencies and challenges with all the people of all the different ages, but just understanding what's important to them. That's really what it comes down to. What's most important to them. So you can understand that and operate in that as you're building and start building your culture.
Mm-hmm. Agree with that. Agree with that.
And we have to start. We said
Mm-hmm.
start building, you have to start.
Yep.
We
Make the
can't just have this,
decision.
we can't just have this plan and say this is great, sounds good, awesome. Can't sit on it.
Implementation is important. Can't just talk about it. No,
Gotta be about it.
you gotta, like we said, norm it and have the expectation that hey, we're gonna do this. Hold people
Mm-hmm.
accountable to do it because this is how we moving.
But that also made me think of something of this word. I love the word accountability, but that word is like up there. And a lot of times we will say, "I'm going to hold you accountable," but what is the system of holding that said person accountable to doing whatever it is that they said they were going to do? I know one thing. I'm thinking about one of the fourth grade classes. Um, we've been making team agreements, team norms, because we have a little, a little conflict in there. And they know I'm very big on the word accountability and what that means. And I told them, I was like, okay, turn and talk to your partner. How are you going to hold your person accountable if they decide to go against our team norms that we created as a whole class? And the beauty in having children talk to their peers and say, well, when you do this, I'm probably going to say this to you respectfully or X, Y, and Z, or remind you of what you should be doing with the core values and all those different things. So I always go back to like, okay, yes, we can hold people accountable, but what's the how? what's the system,
Mm-hmm.
what's the norm to do that.
That should be part of it. Exactly that. Especially working with, I was going to say, especially working with young people because they're still building tools to cope and adapt with things. But predictability is paramount. Like if they know, oh, okay, yep, they said that they were going to tell me this, or they were going to remind me respectfully, right, Tangerine? Then yeah, then okay, that's what they did. Versus, I knew I was loose. I knew I was not following what was on the team agreement, the social contract, but I don't know what's about to happen now. Then that's a whole nother uh, emotional and mindset wavelengths that they can kick people into the unpredictability of it. Mm-hmm.
That part. So let us know in the chat if you're still here. How have you held someone accountable, whether that it was a adult peer or a child, a tiny human that you were in contact with? Like, what are some ways that y'all hold people accountable? Oh, let me put it back up there.
Yes, yes. I was like, is that last piece is commitment. We have to be committed to it. So holding each other accountable, that is the commitment. That is that final emotion that we attach to that. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
I say like for students, especially the younger ones I had, because I created like the good, like the rules, and together we created like, okay, what happens if we break these rules? Like, what should happen? And so I think that helps with the accountability. Me holding them accountable to follow through, because you this is what you said. This is what we all agreed on, right? So this is what, and isn't this what you agreed on? And it's like making them think back, oh yeah, we did agree on this. That is fair. Like reminding them about, just to sticking to their word and what they said and what they agreed to. With adults, I want to say sometimes I feel like you need to have the personality for it, but then also, because some people again may take it personal, when you are giving feedback. But I think how you give the feedback is like starting with what something they did very good. Oh, I really liked how you did da 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 or whatever, and then say, okay, this was something that I saw you may need to improve, or can you explain to me why did you do da 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 here? Versus like, oh, that was wrong. I don't like how you did that. Blah 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 blah. You can say, oh, what made you do that here, or why did you do that instead of blah 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 blah.
But
Um,
that's something you've learned about the person over time, though, with your relationships, though,
that's
because
true.
some people still depend in largely. And I was like, yes, I've been in some situations where, right, or I've been around situations, I'll say campuses and whatnot. Um, the person did a glow and a grow, but it wasn't received very well because there was no relationship. They still didn't hadn't really gotten to know the person, or that was the only time they came in to do this mandated glow and grow.
Mhm.
And so I'm gonna say this real quick, and then in every space, workspace, school space, parent space, we have to go past the mandates. When you're building culture, you got to go past the mandates. You can't just do, well, okay, well, I'm supposed to, so here you go. And that's
That's
it.
true.
Hmm.
Ooh-wee.
That's true,
We
because
gotta
that's the
respond.
only way you're gonna build a relationship. Because even if you pop in for a couple minutes, 5 minutes, they'll make note like, "Oh, you came in my classroom." You can even do
Hmm.
a quick question like, "Oh, how are you doing today?" Oh, and
Hmm.
sometimes teachers like, "Oh my God, I'm being observed." No, no, no. I'm just coming in to pop in. You
So
know.
imagine that. That's building the relationships. Let's see.
Mhm.
Sheila Seal said for holding people accountable for an adult, asking the questions. Are you aware that what you did or said is not what you agreed to do or say?
Ooh,
Yep.
I like that one.
Super,
Let's start there.
super direct to the point. Are you
Mhm.
aware? Right.
But sometimes people are
Yeah.
like just simply
They
not
didn't make
aware
that
that.
connection. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think we as humans, we're humans. We're all guilty of it. But I think about myself as a person who has ADHD. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'll do that, and then my brain goes somewhere else. I'm like, oh snap, I forgot, or
Mhm.
oh my goodness, I didn't mean to do it that way, or whatever. It just reminds me of grace, because if although that person did not do it the way that they said or whatever, it's most people I feel don't move out of maliciousness or ill will.
Hmm.
Most people. I can't speak for all, but most.
Yeah, but and that goes back to some of the norms and things again, because I know a lot of times we say we want to make sure we are assuming positive intent, positive intention. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to consider. It's a lot of nuances, and that was
Hmm.
kind of why we named our series what we named it, because you're going to have to reflect a lot, right? It's a continuum. It's much reflection before before the conversation, some things during, some things after, and then we start to cycle again, but all working on building those relationships so we can really maximize and have a positive culture, because you're going to have a culture. Again, we keep saying you're going to have one, you will, but if we want to have a positive culture, just a positive experience, it is some work. It is.
A lot of work, a lot of, I'll say, committed work, because you have to be committed to creating that culture and watering that culture, I'll say. It's a lot
Come
of
on,
work.
water.
Yes.
You got to water it, and you got to tend to it, and you got to take like the weeds from around it away, because that toxicity can come into your culture and spread.
Right all the way through your garden.
You gotta tend to the garden that you're creating, that culture.
I
You
love,
got
I love, I love.
All
yeah.
Little
right.
nugget from and I'm gonna leave it at this because we were talking about feedback specifically at the school in the school. One thing that a previous assistant principal used to do in regards to the mandated observations and the informal ones as well. She used to create a bingo board just to make observations not feel so stressful and would check off all the things you did right. So I just had to put that out there for all of you leaders out there who are observing. Feedback is needed no matter what you're doing, but it don't have to be so stressful all the time. Make it fun sometimes. I just had to drop that because we were talking about teachers and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, definitely gamifying some things. So we'll be coming back with some more strategies, because again, it's not a one same thing. Basically, what we're modeling, right? It's not a one stop. Okay, let's give you these seeds, and then it's going to grow and flourish into this wonderful garden, right? Jamila told us some of the work that's going to have to happen. So we'll be back to water, to remove some of the weeds, some of those misconceptions. Yeah, and
Yeah.
also and also just to prune it and shape it and guide it and watch it grow.
Oh,
All
let's
right.
not forget to talk about the giveaway. Let's drop the link again.
Gotcha.
'All right.
'Cause I feel like, is it pinned at the top? Because I feel like I pinned it, but it might be pinned on mine.
Okay.
There we go.
Hold on. Y'all
All
ain't
right,
gonna
y'all.
remember
So
that.
for the giveaway, there is a Google form, and I know we'll all double check on all the respective pages to make sure that it's pinned at the top of the streams there. But you fill out the Google form. First of all, let me back up again. It's for an Amazon gift card, right? And who couldn't use that this season? Everybody. So you're making sure you complete the form, and the form also has a reminder for you for the things that you need to do to make that happen, to earn, to be entered into the drawing at least. So that is commenting, tagging a couple people. A lot of y'all were very interactive and engaged throughout the post, and we thank you for that. If
Thank
you
you.
watch the replay, please put hashtag replay and you still engage. We will still write you back. We come back. So again, if you've been one of the people lurking all this time, you must emerge from the shadows now, right? You want to get in on this good Amazon gift card drawing. So make sure that again you click that link to fill out the Google Doc and then check the checklist for the other things, just a couple other things. We appreciate you all listening again so much. Our next session is Saturday, December 3rd at 11 CST. I don't know if we on CST or CDT now, because we done fell
And
back and sprung
and
forward and everything.
and 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
So you get to sleep in. So, and then wake
Just
up and come on alive with us.
Yes. So part 3 is coming up. So you have some time also to get some things done to make sure you get your entry in for the giveaway. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much for joining us for today's conversation. Bye bye.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.